Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled People Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. My ex pranked me by telling everyone I got her pregnant. My girlfriend believed her and ended up moving out. After that, landscaping owner rips off my friend for $400, so my friend makes him incur $15,000 in expenses. And after that, am I the jerk for telling my dad the real reason why I don't want to go on vacation with him and his family? Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen does not get to lie about being pregnant. Speaking of being pregnant, there's something I've been meaning to tell you, Reddit boy. Oh God. So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. And subscribe to our podcast now on Spotify. My ex pranked me by telling everyone I got her pregnant. My girlfriend believed her and ended up moving out. Over a year ago, my relationship got put in a bad place because my ex, who I broke up with 2 years prior, sent me a DM that I'm her baby daddy. Her daughter was under a year old, by the way, so I already knew it was BS, and I told her don't contact me again. She found my girlfriend, who's 27, on Instagram, and then started sending her messages too that this is my daughter. She's sorry for being involved with me, knowing I was in a relationship with my girlfriend, but since I'm refusing to take responsibility, she didn't know who else to reach out to, trying to make herself seem all genuine. My girlfriend was sent fake screenshots that were supposedly from me, then also the one I actually sent her about leaving me alone because that's not my baby. Around this time, my girlfriend was 6 months pregnant, so the stress and hormones of that, plus the info she gave her, the times we supposedly met up after telling my girlfriend I'm working late matches up because those were actually nights I had to work late. All of that freaked her out, and she really did start having doubts. It got to the point where my girlfriend was really scared and confused, and then she went to stay with her parents for a few days. I was so scared I was gonna lose my family. Then, my ex apologized when she heard my girlfriend wasn't staying at our apartment. She just wanted to mess with us a little because she was still bitter I dumped her, but she didn't mean for it to go that far. My girlfriend came back. It took some time to come back from that, but we have our son now, who's 7 months old, and we've been happier than ever. My sister, 25, female, told me about this last weekend when we were at our parents'. She got a little tipsy, and when we were joking about all of our old embarrassing stories, she just blurted it out that she thought it was okay to talk about it now since me and my girlfriend are fine. I kept asking her why the heck would she do something like that, straight up arguing right there in front of my family. She says she was just being stupid and bored since she wasn't working, and like my ex, didn't realize it would get that bad, which is why they stopped it. But obviously, my ex didn't rat on my sister. I called my sister a jerk for almost wrecking my relationship, and what that put my girlfriend through. My sister started crying, and this is why she didn't say anything, because it might get this reaction. She only said something now because she was embarrassed, and now we're in a good place, so she doesn't know why I'm so mad about it. It was a whole thing. My sister cried in the bathroom and wouldn't come out. I went home early to be with my girlfriend and son. They're all saying that I behaved like a jerk when my sister decided to come clean, and that I owe her an apology for my overreaction, just like she owed me one. Was my reaction warranted though, or was it actually an overreaction? I'm still mad about it. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. That's not a prank. That's an attempt to completely ruin your life and current relationship. How can your sister justify causing that much distress to your pregnant girlfriend? Because she was bored? What on earth? Not the jerk. And if I were you, she'd no longer be my sister. That's not a prank or a joke. It's malicious and cruel. Would you forgive your sister if she pulled a prank like this on you or not? Please let us know. A real sister would never pull a prank like that. I'd definitely cut her out of my life. Landscaping owner rips off my friend for $400, so my friend makes him incur $15,000 in expenses. A while back, my friend was selling some stuff online, and among the items was a water heater. You know, the ones you see in every community hall and church kitchen? It was in working condition. He threw it up online for $150 and got an email from a person who runs a landscaping business saying he'll give him $100 cash today. Done. 2 weeks later, he got an email saying that it's not working. Weird. So my friend offered to give a full refund or cover repair cost if it's under $100. The guy instead sent an invoice for $400 saying the repairs had been done, and if my friend doesn't pay it in 48 hours, he'll send a debt collector after him. He paid it, out of fear, and emailed him the confirmation. The landscaping owner then emailed back saying, "This is the price you sometimes have to pay when selling secondhand electronics," followed by a Have a great day. Don't let this hold you back," with a smiley at the end of the email. A month later, my friend was in a bar and overhears a girl talking about how her boss, who runs a landscaping firm, did over some guy selling a water heater. My friend said, "Oh no, I gotta hear this. Do you mind if I join your table?" And the girl said sure and told the story. Her boss had brought a busted water heater from a secondhand store for $25 and a working one for $100 and billed the seller for the repair for the busted one before he sold it for $300 to some community group. My friend asked, "Who did this so I don't hire that guy to fix up my yard?" She says the company name, and lo and behold, it's on the email of the guy my friend sold the water heater to. He was the jerk in this story. He told me he was pretty angry about it, but lockdown then hit, so he had other stuff to worry about. 18 months later, he was browsing the website he originally sold the water heater on, and he saw a bunch of landscaping materials: shovels, gardening stuff, wheelbarrows, lights for working at night, drills, nail guns, some construction materials, and a generator. Now, in my friend's location, apparently, if you're selling a generator, then you need to have a warrant of fitness for it, proving that it works, it's safe, no flayed wires, etc. Most people ignore it, and he saw that this generator is being sold by the landscaping firm. This generator, he said, just by looking at it, there was no way it would have a warrant of fitness. Word of note: failure for a business to provide the warrant upon request for a generator after 2 weeks, when reported to the official departments and enforced by the court, the punishment is a hefty fine, and the courts often force the seller to refund the affected party and pay any costs that they incurred. evilplottingmusic.mp3. He talked to his flatmate, who agreed that they would go 50-50 on the generator, but he would transfer the money. Now, my friend had never met the landscaping firm owner face-to-face when selling the water heater. He left it outside, and pickup was confirmed via his security camera. And when he gets there, it was clear that the owner, this old grumpy-looking man who enjoyed yelling at his employees, had emptied out his storage unit. The owner was very much, "As it is, no refund," and the flatmate showed him the transfer confirmation, and they take the generator for $800. No warrant of fitness provided. They then took it to a friend of theirs who's an electrician, and he agreed to check it out and give an invoice for repairs, and to quote the friend, "It would be cheaper to buy a new generator, and to be honest, this generator shouldn't have been sold. It should have been scrapped." They also found that the main identifier number had been scratched off, but not the second number that's often recorded on the warrant for tracking purposes. So they got in contact with the seller, telling him the cost for repair, around $5,000. He promptly tells them that he's not paying, "as it is, no refund," to which they then asked, "Have you got the warrant of fitness for this generator?" Silence for 2 days. They followed up with another email asking for it. No response. They then ask again and get an email from him saying that he'll take it back for $800. They said, "No, we want the warrant," and they get no response. They emailed him every day for 2 weeks, nothing. So they printed out the original item listing that had been screenshotted and had been archived on the website and reported him to the website and then to the government. 4 months later, my friend is in court and the guy went up to him. He tells him that he will take back the generator for $800 and that my friend and his flatmate will be going in to tell the judge that the seller has refunded them and that they want it all dropped, and that's what's happening here. Full stop, end of story. They're doing what they are told to do. My friend said no. So they went into the courtroom and it's over very quickly. The inspector the government sent out to inspect the generator stated that it was in poor condition, shouldn't have been sold, was highly unsafe, and that the seller had tried to get the generator a warrant in early 2021, but instead had been told that it was to be repaired or scrapped and that it was not to be sold. They identified it by a second number on the generator that they took down in the original attempt to get it a warrant, which had not been scratched off like the first. The judge ordered the landscaping firm owner to refund the flatmate the $800, pay the $5,000 for repairs to the generator, and was ordered to pay a $10,000 fine, which would be given directly to my friend's flatmate as the affected party. When they left the courtroom, the owner was furious and told them that under no uncertain terms was he paying them a penny more and that he couldn't understand what he had done to deserve such treatment. To which my friend said, "Remember the water heater?" He gave him a very confused look. "Remember the water heater you bought for $100? Well, I do, because I sold it to you. And I know that you had a different one repaired and invoiced me for it." His jaw was on the floor, and to hit it home, he said, "It sucks, doesn't it, when what goes around comes around, especially when it accumulated interest. You have 48 hours to pay or a debt collector will be contacted. Remember, this is the price you sometimes have to pay when selling secondhand electronics. Have a great day. Don't let this hold you back." And they left. He paid the $15,000 2 days later. My friend and the flatmate split the $10,000 50-50 as they agreed, combination of rent payments and study stuff. The generator they got repaired, and then they got a warrant for it before selling it for $1,000 with a newly replaced identifier number. They then went out for a wonderful dinner and night out in town. Am I the jerk for telling my dad the real reason why I don't want to go on vacation with him and his family? I'm a 17-year-old male. When I was around 9, my dad, 39 male, started seeing a friend of my mom's, cheated on my mom. They married and now they have 3 kids together. My dad asked for custody and he was granted to have me on weekends. He seemed happy to have me and always tried to include me in everything, but it was kind of weird and frustrating. He even tried to make me call his wife Mom and went for full custody several times, since being with his wife and making me accept his new family was more important than spending actual time with me. I stopped going to his house when I was 14. He tried to fight for full custody after my mom started dating my stepdad, a nice guy, but I told him to stop. The other reason why I stopped going, I never told my dad this one, is because his wife was so hostile towards me. My dad used to pay attention to me when I was there, so I think she didn't like it that way, and one day told me behind my dad's back that I was an obstacle to my dad's happiness, that I should just stay with my mom full time. Their anniversary was 5 days ago. I didn't want to go, but he called my mom to threaten that if I didn't go, he'd go to court. He took his 4 kids, including me, his wife, his parents, and his parents-in-law to celebrate at a nice restaurant. Once there, he said that he had 6 tickets for vacation. I didn't say anything, but then he looked at me and said, "One is for you." I said, "Thanks, but I'm not going." He seemed angry and said, "Okay, I had enough. Why don't you want to go?" "Just because," I said. But then he asked the same questions 5 more times. So to the 6th time I said, "Because I don't like your wife." Then he started asking, "Why?" over and over again. So I ended up telling him the mean things that she said to me. He was seemingly uncomfortable, but told us to finish our meal. No one talked for the rest of the night, and after we finished, I asked my stepdad to pick me up. I haven't spoken to my dad since. He just sent me a message asking if I changed my mind about the trip, but I said no. My cousin told me that my dad is staying at my grandparents' now. His wife texted me yesterday calling me a brat and asking if I was happy for potentially destroying my half-sibling's home life, but I just ignored her. My cousin says that the kids are crying because my dad isn't at home, and she says that I should have just said other things or agreed and then tell him later that I wasn't going. Not the jerk. For a 17-year-old guy, you have some tact, which is incredibly refreshing and makes me optimistic about the future, so good for you. Yes, you could or should have waited to say you weren't going in private, but your dad's behavior after repeatedly asking the same questions makes me think it wouldn't have ended there. So you said no. To your credit, you attempted to not ruin the meal by not answering the following why questions that you were bombarded with. You tried. He wouldn't let it go, so you finally just answered. Nothing being a jerk about that. Now for a grown woman to tell a kid, her stepson no less, that the kid is standing in the way of his father's happiness? Now that's classy. If stepmom and dad want to play stupid games, then they don't get to whine about stupid prices. Not the jerk. You didn't ruin the marriage, she did by not accepting you and your dad as a package deal. She pushed you away, his own son, because she couldn't stand having to share attention. Your dad's marriage was doomed the moment she uttered those words behind his back. You did the right thing by telling the truth to your dad. Make sure to save all of her messages in case she tries to lie her way out of it. Take care, and I hope things improve with your dad. I don't want to see your name on this list again. This story didn't personally happen to me, but it was told to me by someone I trust. I fully believe it to be true, but some details are slightly altered to protect privacy. A friend of mine is retired now, but back in the day he did internal audits for a large bank. This story takes place about 30 years ago when networked computers were less common and paperwork tended to be compiled manually. Bank managers had to submit various reports to their regional offices showing what their branches were up to, and the regional offices would occasionally send out auditors to go through the records and make sure that everything was in compliance. One report that had to be filed monthly was a list of any employees who were in arrears on their own loans. Employees who had trouble managing their own credit were considered to be more at risk of stealing, fraud, or other financial crimes. So I guess the bank wanted to keep track of anyone who may fall into that category. My friend's team is doing an audit at a particular branch, going through the records and looking for any discrepancies. They find a big one. The manager of this branch had been behind on a number of loans he held with the bank, but had been leaving his own name off the report. More records are pulled, and they start looking at everything this guy has ever filed and comparing it to other records. The manager had started doing everything correctly, including himself on the report fairly regularly. At a point about 10 years prior, it suddenly stops, despite the spotty loan repayment continuing for years. Bosses of bosses are called. It's looking like they may have stumbled on years of falsified records and possibly more serious fraud. The manager is definitely getting fired, and depending on what else they find, looking at some serious criminal charges. Finally, they call the manager in to show what they found and ask for an explanation. The manager produces a letter from someone higher up in the bank. Basically, when he started, the manager was just a little too free with his spending and didn't make his monthly loan payments a top priority. His boss wrote a letter saying that having the manager of a bank branch at the top of a list of unpaid loans was an embarrassment. If he wanted to keep his job, he better make sure that his name never appeared on that report again. He was supposed to sort out his financial affairs, but the manager said he interpreted the instruction literally and simply stopped including his own name. It took years before anyone noticed. In the end, the investigation found no other signs of record tampering or financial crime. No one really believed that he actually thought what he was doing was allowed, but the whole thing was just ambiguous enough to give plausible deniability. By the point everything was discovered, the manager had his finances in good order, and he was pretty close to retirement. The whole thing was just sort of waved away as being more trouble than it was worth to deal with, and the manager didn't see any real repercussions. Just like that kid whose parents told him that they didn't want him to bring home any more bad test grades, so they didn't bring them home from then on. I forgot where that was from, but probably from this sub. Am I the jerk for selling my husband's PS5? I, female 35, bought my husband, male 37, a PS5 for his birthday a couple of months ago. He was beyond thrilled because he's a gamer, but it's been a while since he gamed. Let me say that the house has been a literal war zone ever since my husband started playing with the PlayStation. He started having rage fits, losing it, throwing and breaking expensive stuff like headphones and watches and glasses and his phone. He says it's his normal reaction from being frustrated by losing a round in a game. I told him this is no way to live because the house is in a constant state of anxiety, and my husband's behavior, to me, seemed to be worsening because of how easily he could get mad and lash out now. I told him if gaming makes him stressed out, then he needs to quit. He was like, "Okay, I will try to tone it down from now on. But don't blame me for being frustrated with how messed up these games have become lately." Well, on Tuesday I come home and find the place a mess. $300 game chair was broken and all the stuff on the desk thrown on the floor. I asked him about what happened and he nonchalantly told me he lost a round. I lost it on him and told him that I was done cleaning his mess and paying for replacement for every time he destroys something, and let him know that he ran out of chances and the PS5 has now had a negative impact and it needs to go. He said it has nothing to do with the PS5, so I told him the PS5 needs to be sold to pay for damages he caused. He threw a fit, but I sold it online. He called me a monster and said that it was selfish of me to return the gift that was for him. Yes, I get that it's a gift meant for him, but I paid for it, and also I'm the one who has to deal with damages since I'm the breadwinner in the house. He went into shutdown mode and keeps sleeping instead of spending time with me. Oh no, that is not a normal reaction to anything. Not the jerk, that man needs so much therapy. 100% agreed. My boyfriend and I and all of our friends are gamers, and you know what? We've all yelled from time to time, but breaking stuff? No way. None of that is normal, and I want OP to know this is not normal for even the most stressful games. I'm in a Discord right now watching my boyfriend's best mates play one of the most maddening games of League of Legends I've ever seen, and you know what they're not doing? They're not breaking their belongings or scaring their wives or babies. Not the jerk. At most, I have cried out of frustration, and that was a clear signal to take a break. Well, what do you think? Is it okay to break stuff when you get mad playing a video game or not? Please let us know. Reminds me of the time I tried playing Fortnite. I had to stop, my blood pressure went through the roof. Rule number 1, never trust your travel agent. So I'm working at the reception of a smallish 71-unit hotel in a quieter part of a busy seaside resort. Our hotel is located next to an artificial lake, which is more of a glorified pond really. a leftover from the days when local authorities decided to drain part of a swamp area in order to develop it. The hotel itself is divided into 3 buildings: the main building with the reception, lobby, restaurant, buffet room, etc., and 2 bigger buildings consisting of a ground floor and the first floor where our apartments are located, which either have a pool or garden view. So yesterday I checked in an older couple, late 60s, early 70s. Everything went fine until they asked me about the apartment's location. I said that it was on the first floor, and the husband seemed to be happy, but the woman asked me if they could have an apartment on a higher floor. I told her that we only have ground floor and first floor, which she begrudgingly accepted. So I sent them on their merry way, but I knew that they would show up again because they were allocated a garden view. People like these always want pool view. If their room faces the garden or vice versa, they're never happy. Lo and behold, they were back 10 minutes later to complain about the view and demanding a view of the pool, or so I thought. Wrong. They demanded a lake view apartment. Well, she did. He was trudging behind. I then informed them that there are no apartments with a view to the lake, since all lake view rooms were studios, not apartments, and that their tour operator hadn't contracted any studios with a view to the lake, so I couldn't move them, even if there were any vacancies of said studios, which there honestly weren't. Cue wife going into full Karen mode. "Listen to me, young man." I always take this one as a compliment since I'm pushing 50. "Our travel agency promised us an apartment with a lake view, and could you at least tell us where we can find the ladder to go into the lake?" I told them that there is no such ladder, and that I've never seen anybody swimming in the lake in the decade that I've been working there. "So you mean that we were promised to be swimming in that tiny pool of yours? Our travel agency promised us that we could swim in the lake." I said that there still is the option of going to the beach and having a swim there. We are located on an island after all, but she wouldn't have any of it. The 400-meter walk to the beach was way too far for her, and that she would be contacting her local travel agent to find them a different hotel. I was about to say that if their travel agent let them down in suggesting our hotel to spend their holidays, they'd probably mess up a second time, but I only said, "You are free to do so, don't let us detain you any further." To which they stormed off. Well, she did. Her husband just turned around and followed her. And this is why nobody should ever believe in what your travel agency tells or promises you. Always book directly with the hotel. Am I the jerk for going off on my soon-to-be husband for returning my wedding dress? Me, female 29, and my soon-to-be husband, male 33, are getting married soon. Wedding planning has so far been going all right, except for a few things he and I argued about, like the venue and flower girl. Now we've been arguing about my wedding dress. This might sound cliche, but ever since I was young, I dreamed of having my own beautiful wedding dress. I can afford it, but my soon-to-be husband thinks it's not okay to waste a couple of $1,000 on a dress I'm only going to wear once. Yes, he might have a point there, but for me, this is typical price for wedding dresses. And 2, because it's a once-in-a-lifetime thing, so why not make sure it's special? Soon-to-be husband still wasn't convinced and suggested I rent a dress instead of buying one. He started saying that I'm being irresponsible with money and brought up how much money I've already put aside to rent a face. He means makeup. And wear fake hair. He means extensions. But I have this vision of what I want to do and look like on my wedding, and I think that it's my right as a bride. I went ahead and purchased the dress, but a day later I found out that it was missing from my closet. I freaked out, but he told me he returned it and got the money back. I was shocked. I asked him why he did that, and he said he thought the dress was ridiculously expensive and that I was wasting money, and again suggested I go rent one. I blew up and went off on him, which I've never done before. He literally took a few steps back and told me to calm down. I said he had no right. I'm the one paying for the dress. He got upset and said that there's no "I'm paying for it myself" in marriage, and that my attitude is setting the tone for what type of dynamic we'll have in our marriage. He kept on about how I must expect him to pay for everything while I keep my money and spend it irresponsibly. But I never tell him how to spend his money. I responded that he gets zero say in how I spend my money whatsoever. He told me that I should grow up and stop with the dream wedding dress cliche, then stormed off to call his mom, who chewed me out, saying she won't let me ruin her son's financial stability with how I deal with money generally. She too urged me to rent a dress or buy a cheaper one, way cheaper than the one I picked, and move on, but I declined. ETA for repeated questions. Yes, he still has the money and said he'll give it back once we agree on a solution. Not the jerk, but please hold, pause, press the button. There are some serious red flags here that you need to look into more closely before you get married. 1. You had a disagreement. You and he are obviously on two sides of the issue, but he took it upon himself to force his solution to be the solution. This is problematic. 2. Where's the money that he got back on the dress? Was it returned to a credit card? Is it your credit card? Was it cash? If so, where's the money? This is important to establish. You said that you spent your own money on this dress. Has he taken that money for himself? Has it gone back to a joint account? Important information for you to have. 3. His mother has put herself in the middle of this argument, not unsurprisingly on the side of her baby. Does she often do this? Do you want to live the rest of your life with her interfering from outside in disagreements that belong squarely within the circle of your household? I'm begging you, look into this more deeply. Do not sweep this under the rug. I know we're taught that marriage is the end-all and be-all, but please do not rush into past indicators that this marriage might be a very pretty trap for you. His mother didn't put herself in the middle. He ran to call his mommy after the argument and invited her into it. Also, OP said in a comment that he now has the money from the dress and is hanging on to it until things are resolved, i.e., she caves and does things his way. Girl, run. You don't want this. Consider it a bullet dodged. Let me put this delicately. Things are not going all right with your wedding planning. You gave many examples of him not respecting you, belittling and undermining your wants for your own wedding, controlling how you should spend your money, and running to mommy when he doesn't get his way. You're lucky you're not married yet. I suggest counseling to make sure you're compatible and will be happy spending your life with this pile of red flags, not the jerk. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her soon-to-be husband? Please let us know. Finance is one of the leading causes of divorce. It's never a good idea to marry someone who you have strong differences with when it comes to finances. Am I the jerk for moving out suddenly and financially doing over my roommate/best friend? So I, 27, female, have been close friends with Tara, 26, female, for about 8 years now. Early on, we made plans to move in together. She shared a 2-bedroom with her boyfriend at the time. They had broken up, and the plan was for him to move out and I'd move into her 2nd bedroom. 3 weeks before moving in, she texted me that they had worked things out and no longer wanted me to move in with her. I was upset because I had already given notice to my apartment and had to move in with my parents. She apologized profusely and had always been a good friend otherwise, so I forgave her. 3 months later, they broke up for good and he moved out, leaving her struggling to pay bills for the 9 months left of the lease. She moved back in with her parents after that in financial ruin, as she put it. Years later, this past summer, we moved in together. I was hesitant initially, but she did all the work finding a place and paying the deposits. It was awesome living with my BFF, and we had a great time until last month. She had a friend with benefits situation with a guy at her work for almost a year. She sat me down and told me that they were making things official and wanted to move in together. So she wanted me to move out when his lease was up in 5 months so he could move in with her. I was livid. I totally blew up at her. I called her a jerk and a selfish friend and told her I would never forgive her for messing me around like this again. This argument ended with both of us in tears. That weekend, while she was staying at her boyfriend's, I packed all my stuff up and moved out. I happened to know someone with a nice 3-bedroom house for rent. It was actually a really good deal that I had only passed up because I had moved in with her, and I lucked out that it was still available. She's been texting me ever since about how I'm doing her over just like her ex did, that I overreacted, and that she can't afford the place by herself. Honestly, I consider our friendship over at this point, but now that I've calmed down, I'm wondering if I might be the jerk. Edit for clarification. My name wasn't on the lease. She handled the paperwork. I didn't want to throw speculations into my post, but I 100% believe she did that on purpose. Second edit. She wanted me to move out in November when her boyfriend's lease was up, not in August when ours would have been. Not the jerk. She can't play games with people's housing. She wanted you out on her time scale so she can play house with her boyfriend. You're rightly upset at being messed around again, and you made the best choice for yourself. This may be going against the tide, but not the jerk. Your friend's history suggests that if her boyfriend's lease were up in 5 weeks rather than 5 months, she would have still asked you to leave. It's all about her and what she wants. You're disposable to her, and it doesn't matter to her how much she inconveniences you, as long as she gets her way. I don't think she's owed any consideration in return. You found a good living situation, which in this market is no small thing. Why should you stick around living with someone who clearly has no respect for you? Am I the jerk for asking my husband to convert our cat's bedroom into a bedroom for our kid? I'm not entirely sure how to process this situation. My husband, 27 male, and I, 25 female, have been together for 6 years and married for 3. We recently had our son, who is 10 months. We live in a 2-bedroom apartment, and for the past 3 to 4 years, our cat has had her own bedroom. It was never a big deal to me because we didn't have kids. Our couch pulled out into a bed if there was ever an emergency with family or friends, and I will admit we both treat our cat like our daughter. Once we had a kid, I never talked to him about it, but I assumed once our kid got older, we would give him the room. Lately, our kid just stays in our room with us. Recently, I showed my husband some toddler beds, and he asked where we would put it. I respond, in his room. He looks at me like I grew another head. He asked me, "What room?" Then I looked at him crazy. I started talking about how we could convert our cat's room into a nice bedroom for our kid. He got upset. He asked how could I even fix my mouth to suggest we take away his daughter's room. I looked at him confused. Our apartment is big enough for most of her stuff to come out of the room and in the living room and kitchen area. She only has a bed, scratching post, and a few cat toys. The only thing that may be harder to place is the scratching post just because of the height, and it's not even that big. I stood up for myself. I told him how I wasn't kicking out our cat, but our kid is getting older and needs a room. He suggested we buy a new place, but we can't afford that. He told me I was a jerk and stormed into our cat's room. It feels weird. I thought after months of not doing anything, he would jump on the opportunity to get our kid out of our room. He's been in our cat's room for a couple of hours, and I'm starting to feel like a jerk. Edit. A lot of people are asking why I never brought up turning it into a nursery. I'm a new mom. I don't like the idea of my baby being that far away. I know now that I ignored many red flags in this situation. I was blinded by love. I thought that he was supporting my new mom jitters. He wanted kids. I never brought up converting the room earlier because I didn't think I needed to. I wasn't ready for our baby to leave the room, but I didn't think he wanted us to have a teenager still in our room or anything. I'm just confused by all of this, and I don't know what to do. Not the jerk. Let your husband throw his weird little tantrum and then start setting up your kid's room with or without his help. Look, I'm a huge cat person. Owned cats all my life and always will, and love them. And even I think your husband is weird about this. Cats don't need rooms, humans do. Simple as that.
Huge shout out to Benzer, who left us a review on iTunes saying, "I can finally listen in my car on my phone without having to exit an app."
Thanks for the review, Benzer. We hope you continue to enjoy the Mr. Redder podcast, available on Spotify and iTunes.
Come leave us a review and you'll hear it in an upcoming video. Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video.
Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.